Well, I would first like to say what an honor it is to be here, and my roots are from Iowa. My mom was born in Kanawha, Iowa, which is just a little north of here, and my dad was born in Hall, Iowa, which is in the northwest side. So I feel really privileged to be able to be here and speak with you. I want to tell you just very briefly about my philosophy because I think it's really important to the material that I'm going to be speaking with you about today. And that is, my philosophy is twofold. One, I want to win. And as a coach, I don't apologize for that. I want to do everything in my power to help our teams have a W at the end of the night. I also would tell you that we don't talk about winning much at all in our program. So I say that because what do I mean by wanting a win? It means putting your team and your players in a position the best that you can to favor the result. So that means team chemistry, making sure that our team chemistry is off the charts. It means preparing our players what's going on in their minds so when they are performing under pressure that they know how to handle what they need to do under pressure, where a lot of athletes I don't think know that. So there's lots of things. It's me keep getting better at knowing how to teach the game. And it's having fun. So that's the first part. The second part of my philosophy is I want every person walking out of our program to say, and we're a faith-based school, to say my faith is stronger, I'm a better student, I'm a better friend, sister, daughter, maybe wife or mom someday, maybe not. And I'm the best volleyball player that I can be given that I'm playing Division III volleyball. So those two things is what drives me. And one does not go over the other. So I would say to you in the big picture of life, the second part is what I'm way more passionate about. But the first part is really, really important to me too. So it's this whole experience of my student athletes that it's a life changer for them in years to come, but it's a life changer for them in the 4 years they're with us. And I want to foster every single part of their life to help them be better. I just to give you a little bit part of the introduction, how many of you have seen teams or been a part of teams or athletes that just can't get the job done routinely when the score gets to be about 20, 21, 22? Okay. How many of you have been on teams or have coached teams or players that just seem to have the magic potion at 21 or 22 points? Okay. And then how many of you have coached against teams that it doesn't matter what the score is or how far you're ahead, you never feel like it's enough? Okay? And then how many times have you coached a team where or coached against a team, all you need to do is break them once and they're done? Okay? So the mind is a very powerful weapon. And I can say the 3 toughest years of my coaching, I was just talking to Kevin about this this morning, the 3 toughest years of coaching have been the year after we won a national title. Why? I think partly because the target's on our back. We seem to get everybody's best match. I think 2, you're dealing with all kinds of different things going on in the players' minds. You've got your best players who are trying to repeat All-Americans or National Players of the Year. They're trying to simulate what last year was like because they want it again. They actually feel more pressure because when they go through it the first time, it's sort of like, this is sort of fun. And then the second time around, they're like, wow, the stakes are really, really high. And so when the first time happened in 2011, and I've been incorporating this mentality training for many years, but in 2011 was one of the first times where I said, okay, as a coach, I've got to come to grips with this, and I have to give our players strategies. So I have a background in sports psychology, and from very early on my coaching career, I have been fascinated with how what happens up here affects everything else of what they do. In fact, sometimes if you've ever said, I cannot believe we're not doing what I've taught them to do for the last 2 months of the season and we look like we can't even pass a ball. Okay? My guess is that has something to do with what the mind is affecting what the body is doing. So I would like to give you some strategies today that we do in our program that I think that really make a difference and equip our student athletes. All right, talent versus all the rest. Okay, I'm going to acknowledge to you that we have won because we've had some really, really good players. Okay? But I also would say for people that will say, well, it's easy to coach the really talented team. And I'm here standing up here and saying it is really, really difficult to coach a really talented team. So you have all kinds of things going on, and that's to me where the art of coaching comes in and all the different variations. So what does that exactly mean? It means all the rest of this stuff have to be taken care of. Team chemistry, how your team gets along. Fostering, and I say this because I care about our kids, but I also say it because it helps us win. I don't want you to think that I only care about winning, so I'm going to do all these things, and I don't care about how their experience is. It's really a combination. So it's about keeping the fun in it. I want our players to come to practice every day knowing they're going to work their tails off and they're going to love it. Right? So if a player says to me, Coach, the last 2.5 hours, I cannot believe how fast it went. Then I know I'm doing my job. Right? I'm breaking things down, I'm keeping it, there's a variety, and I'm keeping it fun for them. And they work really, really hard. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being able to say it should be enjoyable. The way we manage our athletes, okay? Consistency, caring, truthfulness. Kevin touched on some. And then I would say that the last one would be the mentality training. A lot of people think that this is like soft science, right? I hate that term, but I love it because the more coaches that I coach against that think it's soft science, the more advantage I have against those teams. So, but soft science to me is a secret, right? And it's kind of got a negative connotation to it. And I think we can all acknowledge it. If we can control or help manage the mind, we're going to help and control managing the skills, and we're going to put ourselves in a position that we can be more successful. So, if you do all these things, talent, whatever you have, and maybe you're going to beat a team that's more talented than you because you're taking care of all the things that you can to foster. So in other words, I would like to say, if we can get our players to have everything where it needs to be, in the mind, their feelings, on the court, with their skills, we're going to put ourselves in a position to win more. Okay, I'm going to ask you this question. What percentage of performance do you think is mental? And I want you to, I want you to write your number down in your paper. Okay, raise your hand if you had more than 50%. Raise your hand if you had more than 60. 70, keep them up. 80, 90, 95, 100? Okay, so let me just say that I think as skills and as levels get higher, that percentage gets higher. So if we say a middle school athlete, maybe what's going on in the head isn't quite as important as teaching them skills compared to an Olympian who has worked on their skills and they've perfected, they're at the highest they can be, and then maybe it becomes higher and higher. I got to ask, a few years ago, I got to ask some of the U.S. women's Olympians what they thought, and the lowest answer was 80. Okay? So then I want to say, most of you had, I think, over 80, lots of hands. Why are we not teaching it? Why are we not incorporating it more? We care so much about getting an extra 20 minutes of reps, and we're not teaching what's going on up here. Okay? Now, part of that is, I don't think many people know how to teach it, right? For me, it's a combination of my degree, but I'll be really honest with you. I'm going to share some of the research. I'll be really honest with you. The stuff that I've learned is by failure and stuff that hasn't worked. Okay, so some of the stuff you're going to get it won't be in books. I just and it's my gut and it's my experience that I feel that what works and what doesn't. So So this is something I would encourage you. The other thing I want to say to you is we don't have unlimited hours in a gym 11 months out of the year. Okay, we're a Division III school. I see our kids from middle of August until the end of November, hopefully. And then again for 1 month in the spring. That's it. I can't be with them on the court. So for me to teach this stuff, I have to incorporate it into our practices and during our season and the little off season that we have. And so my on-court session tomorrow is going to bridge what I'm talking about today and give you some of the drills that we do on court to incorporate some of these things. So it's about really efficiency. Okay, I have a story. This happened a year ago. We found ourselves, we got a terrible draw in the NCAA tournament. They don't really seed well in Division III, unfortunately. And we had a couple losses on the season. We found ourselves getting a 5th seed in one of the regionals. They shipped us out to Illinois Wesleyan, and we had the toughest regional of the 8, and we are the 5th seed, so we were playing the 4th seed, who we had beaten the national championship the year before. It was the craziest first round, I think anybody in Division III would say. Back up a couple weeks to that, I was noticing, and I'll explain more about serving tomorrow, but I was noticing that our players were not really buying in as much as they had been to our serving philosophy and our mentality training for serving. And so I thought I just scrapped the practice plan. I hauled them in and I said, I would like you to go serve 1 ball. They went all to different courts, served a ball, came back in, and I said, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you 100% believe that ball's going in, you're gonna go serve it again, and I wanna go around the room and I want every single one of you to tell me what your number is, okay? We went around the circle and we had, the highest number was 8, the lowest number was 4, and I said to them, we have worked on serving, we're relentless on our serving. Okay? We work on it in the off season. We work on just having it be aggressive, having lots of movement, and we have a certain routine that we want the women to do, which I'll share later. And nobody said anything. And then I had the first person say, her name is Jenna, my setter, said, well, Coach, I'm just gonna be really honest with you. Sometimes I just don't think I'm very good. I know I can be a good server, but sometimes I just don't think I'm a very good server. And she said, and I also sometimes let the crowd get in my head. I do. I'm going to be really honest about that. So I just said, thanks for being so vulnerable. And so what we did in those couple weeks of practice is between every single drill, we talked to them about, we've prepared you, you know what you need to do, and now you have a decision to make. And your decision is, are you going to be a 10 or not? It doesn't mean the ball's going to go in 100% of the time, but it means you believe it's going to go in 100% of the time. So we did that drill, 1 serve, be a 10, between every single drill we did in practice. We found ourselves on that Thursday night of the first regional match. We were down 10-14 in the 5th set, and guess who went back to serve? The setter, Jenna. She was a senior. So she was serving, she had to serve 6 points, or at least 5, 4 to be able to keep our season alive, and she was serving for the rest of her career, basically. And she walked back, I looked at my assistant, and I'm like, wow, this is just, it couldn't be scripted any better than this. She ended up serving 6 serves in a row. 2 of them were aces, 2 of them were one-option passes, and 2 points we got rather lucky and had a good block, and the other team made a mistake, okay? We ended up winning that, and that night, she said to me in the hotel room, Coach, there's just a couple things I want to say about that. One is you were exactly right. I had a decision to make, and I knew I might have missed my serve, but I wasn't going to let it happen, okay? My back was to the wall, and I chose to be a 10. In fact, I felt like I really was like a 20. She said, if we would have never worked on those things in practice, there is no way I would have felt equipped to be able to serve in that situation. That's just one story to me of how the mind is a powerful thing and how it can affect performance. Okay, just a couple things about Oh, and that's Jenna, by the way. This was her immediately after we won the last point. And if you know her, she is one of the most unemotional people that I've ever coached. So she was very relieved and elated. Okay, mentality training 101. What are the basic things that we know from science and the research about mentality training? This is really important to know, so when you're talking to your athletes and doing things, that you're not expecting things that are impossible. The first one is we can only have one emotion or thought at a time. It is not humanly possible to share two emotions at once or to think two things at once. We can bounce from one to the other, but we can't do more than one at a time. Okay, and here I want to say about emotions. I have 3 sons, and as a mom, and I would say this about our players too, I could say I have 19 daughters, we want to take pain away from our children. We don't want them to experience negative emotion. It's just a natural instinct. We'd like them to be happy. Okay? But when we do that, we're actually not helping them. So to experience the full range of emotions and thought processes is actually a really healthy thing. And when they do that, we can help them navigate through that and teach them. So when something really happens in their life that really means something, they know how to deal with it. And I don't think kids today are getting taught that enough. And I think coaches are the primary, besides parents, are the primary people that can help do that. So when I say this, I want to just make a preference by saying that negative emotion is something that we need our kids to experience. And we actually put that type of negative emotion into our practices. Okay. 3 to 5 second rule. Oh, actually, I'm going to go this first. Okay, basic thoughts. We have negative thoughts, right? We all can name some of them. We have positive thoughts. Instructional thoughts. I'm going to keep my elbow up, right? That's an instructional thought that's considered something that's positive. It's not negative. Okay, and then we have this feeling of in the zone, right? In the zone, when athletes describe, I was playing in the zone, they're describing a feeling where it's like this incredible feeling about the way they're performing. And most people, when they describe it, say, I wasn't thinking about anything at all. Everything just seemed easy. Baseball players will say, the ball looked huge when I was going to hit it. What we know from research is that the only way we can allow ourselves to be able to go into the zone is by thinking positively or instructionally. So as coaches, we need to help equip our kids to be thinking positively because we want them to play in the zone. And ironically, elite athletes only play in the zone, and I actually think it's high, a high percentage. 20 to 25% of the time they perform, they can put themselves or they are playing in a zone. Okay, so for our athletes, I would guess it's going to be less. So, but we want to foster that as much as we can. Okay, 3 to 5 second rule. The first 3 to 5 seconds after somebody makes a mistake is the most critical time of how they're going to recover from that. Okay, so equipping them and having them practice things after they make a mistake within the first 5 seconds is really, really important because that will help them get over it and put them in a better position when they have another attempt. I would also like to say as coaches, and I'll talk about this at the end, your message that you're sending when they make a mistake is also really critical, right? And I'm not saying we can't have emotion, and I'm not saying that we can't get angry, but if I have a server that serves, it hits in the net, and she glances over at me right after she serves, and my head is down or I'm disgusted, I am sending her a pretty powerful message for the next time she's going to serve the ball, right? So, yeah. Okay. Present moment, okay? Ideally, we want to train our athletes to stay in the present moment, okay? What does that look like in the sport of volleyball? It means just staying within the point, right? Or the serve to the end of the serve, or to the end of the rally. So it's not thinking about score. It's not thinking about what happened before. It's not thinking about we're up by 5, we got this, we're going to win. It's not thinking we're down by 5, there's no way we're going to win. That's all past, present, or past, future, right? So, and if we do that, this is one of my favorite statements. If you stay in the present moment, you will not feel any pressure. If you think about that statement, right? If you are just concentrating on what's going on right now, you are not thinking about something that happened in the past or thinking about things in the future, and you're just doing, okay? And that's where we should want our athletes to be playing. Okay, so strategies and how we teach this, okay? One is being aware of thoughts. So in the early years when I started doing this training, I had some athletes that, and we have freshmen come in every year, that sometimes they just don't know what they're thinking. They don't really realize and they're unaware. So being aware, what is going on in each person's head. So I'll give you a story of this. I had a server, one of our best servers, a couple years ago. We were in summer camp and she was teaching the kids serving. And I said, hey, Kristen, can you share them your serving mentality routine? And we had been working on this for like 3 or 4 years. And she said, well, Coach, really, if I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't think that works. So I don't really have one. So I said to her, so all of the time that we have spent, that we have walked you through what we've wanted you to do, you haven't done anything. And she said, no. So in the spring, I just said to her, you're going to do this, and you're going to have a coach standing next to you every time you serve, and you're going to verbalize your routine, and I'm going to ask you to buy in and trust me on it. And at the end of the spring season, if you still tell me doesn't really do anything, then let's talk, okay? And she did, and after the first week, she said, wow, I can't believe the difference it's making in my serving. And I'm like, yep, got it. Okay, so having them, here's the hardest part about mentality training. How are you going to keep kids accountable to what is going on in their head? If they are going to be held accountable, they will do it. So I have this, and I'm not going to go into this much, but I have this machine that I don't even have a name for it still. It's in its 3rd remaking. And you hook up the players with a little microphone and an earpiece, and I can talk to them, they can talk to me, but all of their voices get recorded and put into my computer, each on a separate line, and we sync that to video. And they can watch practice, and they can listen to themselves and watch their body language. It's pretty fascinating to see their reactions. But what's really interesting about that is when I get the microphones out, sometimes I don't record, and sometimes I'm not listening. But I'm telling you, they think that thing's on their ear and their mouth, they're going to do it because they think they're being held accountable, right? So that is what we have to try to get at in this sport. And to me, we have done a really nice job, minus, I think, and I'm talking big picture here, I don't think in the United States, we do a very good job of training our kids to serve compared to the rest of the world. But we do a pretty good job on the skills. But this is an area that is untapped and not much is being done about it, and I think it can make all the difference. In fact, I know it can because I've seen it. All right, so awareness. I love this quote. Be careful how you're talking to yourself because you are listening, whether you really realize it or not. And then there's another one. Don't let negative or toxic people, including yourself, right, rent space in your head, raise the rent, and kick them out, okay? Every athlete has the power to control what's going on in their head if they want to. All right, another way, managing the strong and weak voice, okay? And this is something, I'm going to just tell you, every one of us has it. So for me, if I would say, what is my weak voice? There are times like I'm flying here to do this presentation and I think, you know, maybe I really don't know anything that I'm doing. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I don't know anything about the skills that I teach. Maybe I'm telling you this and I just think it's deep down, it's just a bunch of crap, and because we win, people want to hear it and then they buy in. And then I think, and maybe if I was a good coach, then we would have had 6 national championships because we've lost 3 in the finals, right? So that's my weak voice. And it happens, right? It happens. And it happens with our athletes too. I don't care who you are. I'm going to show you this just 5-minute clip, and maybe you've seen this. Sue Inquest, if you've heard her speak, she's amazing. She used to be the UCLA softball coach, and she goes around the country speaking. And I just want to share this because she talks about this strong and weak voice. Oh, I don't know if this is going to work with this clicker. Do you know how to pull this up? I don't. Oh, I got it.
All of us have a strong and a weak voice. And I just have to ask you, would you? And we laugh because we will really want to say, oh, heck no, I would not date myself. And I knew part of my calling in retirement was I needed to go across the country and share with everybody as somebody that I wasn't gifted, surrounded by people that taught me how to believe in myself, that coached the person, that allowed me to be in a position to affect others. But it wasn't until the end that I realized we all have a strong and weak voice in there. All of us do. And the trick to getting to the top and staying on the top is to be able to manage that voice. Would you recruit them? Because they look like losers to me. But what I found in retirement, I wanted to go across all gender, go across all sports, and I wanted to find out everybody's dark side. And I asked them to write on your card all your weak voices. And there they are. But what I want the world to know, because many of you will not be, no offense, a 22-time national champion, an 11-time national champion. I want to give you things right now that you can walk out this door and know, to be able to say, that voice that you see up on the screen right now, that language that you see on the screen right now, that's a champion's language. But what's the trick? The trick is we understand, we're evaluating that conversation all the time. That conversation that's going on in your head. All I'm asking you every single day from this day forward is to release your student athletes. Release them to be able to go, yeah, there are times I am scrambled eggs in my head. Create the environment where they feel safe to be able to go, whoa, it is messy up there. Help me. Because if you can show that champions have that weak voice, why did they become the champion and remain a champion? What did UCLA do that got them to the top? But more importantly, I'm more fascinated what keeps you on top. And the trick is you manage that strong and weak voice in your head. And you make a commitment to yourself from this day forward. I can't change the weak voice, but I can ask you to always let the strong voice get the last word. Doubt is a part of what fuels us. That's human nature to have doubt. Let's stop being the coaches that say, you need to go out there, oh, UCLA. They're just so fearless. No. Everyone, no. I got to pull back the curtain. No. There's a lot of fear. You're UCLA. You've been to the World Series every single year. Every single kid has a championship ring in the legacy of this program. No pressure. The only thing we have to be great on is, I told my student athletes every day, we must let the strong voice get the last word. And you do that drip, 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 Monday through Friday, Monday through Friday. It becomes natural. You see, culture, mindset, literacy doesn't happen at an event. We are not going to change your life. You are going to change the lives of others by drip, drip, drip. Be simple, be clear, be consistent in the message. And part of it is to be authentic. We have good days, bad days, strong and weak voices. Let's manage that. And if we do that, you're going to stay in your brain. And I love this Sharpie, because we always see the Sharpie. You're in sports, we sign the balls, we sign the t-shirts, we sign the paper, but it's indelible. Every single day from this.
Okay. Okay, and when I say that, when we listen to that, what I want to make sure that the drip, drip, drip Monday through Friday, that's not necessarily just feeding your kids positive, giving them positive feedback. Sometimes they need negative feedback. And it needs to be authentic when you give them positive feedback. If you can't just say they did an awesome job if they don't do an awesome job. But it's equipping them on how they're going to do things. That's the drip, 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 right? And tomorrow on court, I'll give you examples. We don't have time to talk about that on court today. Putting them in game-like mentality situations in practice, right? Accountability in every drill you do, unless you have a reason for not holding them accountable. For putting pressure on them, like game-like pressure in practice to allow them to practice that mentality. Giving them routines, what you want them to do, which I'll explain in just a bit. All right, training and practicing thought processes, okay? There is only one, I'll give you an example. There's only one time in our gym that we allow our women to serve by just basically quickly serving the ball in, and it's a game speed ball. Some of you our women love it. That's the only time we don't make them do their serving routine, okay, or ask them to. So we never serve a ball fast. They have to do certain steps, which I'll share with you. And this takes practice, okay? This thought process in training, it's sort of like if you asked a DS to go learn how to do a middle quick attack, right, with no practice, you just can't say do this and they go do it, and maybe some of them can't do it even if they practice it. But you have to, this is training, and it takes a lot of practice and hard work. One thing I do is I will ask our players to verbally say out loud something that they saw at the end of a rally. So at the end of a rally, the ball's done. You never want them to be thinking or saying things about reflecting in the middle of a rally, ever. They can't do it. So at the end of a rally, the ball drops, you can say, I would like you to say out loud to yourself something that you noticed or that you saw that affected what you did. So maybe it's a hitter saying, well, I saw hands up for the line, so I hit cross court. Or maybe it's a back row player saying, I saw the seam was really big, so I went on the inside of that angle. The more they can be aware of what those things, the more it's going to further their game into seeing more. Okay, so those are just some of examples. All right, getting in a routine. Okay, and I'm talking a lot. This is serving, but it can be other things. I want to make it clear that routine is not superstition. Okay, it's doing things. It's a pre-planned and used technique to help you focus and prepare. And so here's an example of our pre-serve routine. Okay, and this doesn't have to be in the same order, but we go to the back line. They take a breath. We know from science that if you take a breath, you're making your muscles relax. When we're under pressure, muscles get tightened. So we're just making sure that they're feeling the same way and that they're relaxing their body. They're either given a target or they pick a target every single time. They find where the nozzle is. We work a lot with every one of our players. Where does that ball move the most with where the nozzle is, where you start it? Okay, and we know that the nozzle is the heaviest part of the ball. So it's going to create more movement depending on where you're going to place it. Some of our players like it on the bottom, some face it to the left, some face it to the right, some face it out. And if you don't know, if your players have never done that, I'll tell them, I want you this week, I want you to face the nozzle to the left every single time you serve. And next week we're going to go to the right, and the next week where it's facing the floor, and you see what works best for you based on your hand contact. So once again, when they're finding the nozzle, what are they not doing? They're not thinking about the pressure. They're not thinking about the score. They're focused on something. We're training their mind to fill it with something instructional so they're not being negative. Okay? They give eye contact to the receiver. It's going to be no secret where that ball goes once it leaves the hand. So I just like to give a little verbal nod, right? Our players just give a little verbal nod to the person on the other side. They got 3 or 4 seconds to think about that, and maybe they're not mentally prepared, and maybe that's going to actually give you a little advantage. So that's one of the things we do. And then they have to say a positive or instructional phrase. Okay, I don't really care. It could be happy birthday to me. I don't really care, but it can't be negative. Okay, and then they serve. This takes, so we make them verbally do this, and the first time you have your kids do it, it takes them a while. It takes them a good 7-8 seconds, and if they keep doing it, it becomes so routine that they do it. And as a coach, you can see in almost their mind working. You can see the shoulders go up and down for the breath. You can see them find the nozzle. You can see them stare down the person on the other side. Okay, so those are things that help prepare them. We do that every day in practice. We get to a national championship point. We've equipped them to have something to hold on to that they can do without thinking about the score. And our players would say they love it. They feel like it's a huge advantage for them. Okay, so that's just one example. All right, what do you do after a mistake? Oops. Here's just some examples of what you can do, right? So you can ask them to find a focal point. And it has to be something that's the same every gym you go to. So it narrows it down to either something on their body or the net. So whether it's the top left antenna or their shoelace, every time at the end of a play or they make a mistake, if they look at that focal point and say, it's done, okay? And have them practice that in practice, because it allows them the reason to say, okay, I'm done. Well, this is one that always worked for me, right? If I made a mistake, if I compliment a teammate, it takes the focus off me, and I'm giving somebody else a compliment, and then I'm not thinking about myself. Okay? As simple as a reset button. This is a little bit like the focal point, but it's to physically go reset. I'm done. Or it's to touch their big toe on their shoe and say it's done. It's clearing their mind. Okay, is another example. Okay, let's see. I was once, I'm going to actually go back here. Mistakes, okay. I had one of my players slip me a note, and I don't even know who it was, actually. They just put it under my door. They said, I love how safe I feel in the gym because I know it's okay to make mistakes. Now, here's the thing. When you do drills and hold people accountable, and there's a goal on it, you're adding pressure. When you add pressure, you are encouraging them not to make mistakes, right? So we do certain drills in our gym that don't have that accountability, and it's a free-for-all for them to go, I'm going to go for it. And it's okay to make mistakes, because by doing that, that's how they live through to be able to learn how not to do them and to correct those things. They can't do that in a game very likely. Okay, so it's, and I will also say the risk-taking. I see this in kids more and more today. They're afraid to risk. So I'll tell our kids in the beginning of the season, I might be throwing in a drill or two, and you won't know what it is, that you might think, Coach is crazy for making us do this, and there's no way we're going to do it, okay, be able to do it. And my goal is for you to risk to try it and to believe in yourself in every single drill we do. Now here's the really cool thing about that. They don't know what drill it is. So they're almost trying to guess. And when I throw something at them, it's like a challenge. It's not like, coach, I can't believe you're having us do this. It's like, this must be one of the drills. Let's go for it. Okay? And what it's actually doing is giving them the freedom to risk and giving them something to hold on to go, let's see how far we can take this. Right? And that's when you start seeing the progress. So those are just ideas. If you let fear of failure keep you from taking risks, you will fail to become great. No one achieved greatness by playing it safe. And then I already told you the story, but at some point, your athletes, and I say this all the time, at some point your back's going to be to the wall, you're going to have to perform a skill, and you have to make the decision. And we are going to equip you, give you the training, give you the drills, so you can say, I've earned the right to be a 10. Okay? And that's where you sell it to them. Okay, managing pregame thoughts. Okay, opponents. I'm just going to throw some stuff out here that we talk about all the time. We never put any team on a pedestal. I don't care how good they are. On any given day, anybody can be beat. And if they're supposed to beat us, then maybe they're going to take us for granted. Okay? And at the same time, we never disrespect anybody enough to say that we need to walk out there and we need to play our A game. Because volleyball is such a strange sport that if you get tight, you get tense, and you think we're going to walk all over this team, and then all of a sudden there are these uh-oh feelings, and then they can't perform anything. So we always give respect, and we never put anybody on a pedestal. End of the season runs. I talk all the time about we're walking on a cliff, right? You have to be willing to fall off and die. But you have to love the thrill and the thrill seeking of going, we're going to try to live to tomorrow. Okay? And embracing that. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay? Is something that we say. Being nervous is good. Okay? If you're not nervous, then I think there's something wrong. Now, if you're so nervous that you're throwing up the day before a match, then I would say you're thinking about the outcome too much. And you're putting too much importance on whatever the situation is, because it's still a game. Okay? And I love this quote. Okay? The things you remember in life are the things that happen right after you have butterflies. So you should never avoid the butterflies, because those are the memory makers. Right? We have an opportunity ahead of us to create one of the best memories that you can make. So it's good to be nervous. If you're not, there's a problem. Okay, a couple more things. Play the game, not the opponent, right? It's the same game, the same dimensions. It's not the opponent, it's what we're doing on our side of the net. And obviously we have a game plan, we have strategy, but we're not pouring emotion into the other side. Embrace the pressure on the cliff, I talked about that. And control what is in your control. We name things. What could happen here, right? We could get a couple bad calls. We could have an injury to one of our key players. Okay? Are we prepared that if that's going to happen, we're still going to be okay? Is the ceiling too low? We hate the ceiling. Is the gym too small? Is the gym too big? Did you have a good warm-up? Some people will say to me, I had a great warm-up. Oh no, I'm not going to play well. And other people say to me, I had a terrible warm-up. I'm not going to play well. So it's all what your thing is, what can you control and what is going to happen. You might have a bad warm-up, it shouldn't affect anything that you're doing. Okay? And then like I just said, name what could happen. Okay, managing in-game mentality, stay in the present moment. How do you do that? By only focusing on the score, or on that point, not the score. Never, ever think about outcomes. I play games with my head as a coach, right? So I've been in devastating fifth game losses. I've been in exhilarating fifth game wins. And I never let what's the momentum or what's happening in a game or a match. Once I start thinking we might win this, I almost like slap my hand and say, don't do that anymore, because we haven't done anything. I don't even care if we're ahead by 10. So you never think about, oh no, we're going to lose. Oh, we're going to easily win this. And you don't let your kids do it either. So those are drills you can do in practice to manage that. The messages you are sending, okay? I loved Kevin's talk about how he is calm on the bench and he doesn't show much emotion. And I'm actually the same way. And we have a really big rival, Hope College, 30 minutes down the road. And I will have it where people will say to me when we lose to them, you just got to show a lot more emotion like Becky. She just gets her team riled up to win. And then when we beat them, I have people say, you're just so much more calm than Becky. So that's why you guys won. And you have to still be yourself. But what messages are you sending with your game mentality? I had it where I'm working with our men's basketball team, and the captain, they were in a postseason game, and I was on the end line. My son's on the team, and I was on the end line. I was in his view of his free throw. He missed his first free throw, and Alex looked at me right before he shot the next free throw in the middle of the game, and he looked at me and he nodded. And thank goodness my head wasn't down because it was a tie score, and I just I'm like, I can't believe you missed that. If I would have been like this, right? He looked at me, I looked at him, I nodded, he nodded back, and I said to my husband, I think Alex just looked at me in the middle of this game, right? But I was so thankful the message I was sending was a strong one, okay? That's so important for us. We talk all the time about a strong face and a strong body, okay? As athletes, we are going to present a strong face and body no matter what, okay? So, what messages do you want to send to the other team, and what messages do you want to send to your teammates? So as you can see, this message for either one would probably not be advantageous, right? This is a little extreme, but we've all had kids that have broken down, right? And I just want to say you are showing the other team that you're weak, and you're not helping your teammates. This was one of my favorite pictures a couple years ago. This was in the national championship match. And you look at those faces. What do I see? Eagerness, relentlessness. Give us the ball, right? I mean, that makes all the difference. If I'm on the other side of the net, I might not be afraid, but I'm like, they're not really relenting much. This picture has happened because of hours of our work, intentional work on what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, Kathy DeBoer, the AVCA executive director, gave a presentation several years ago, and she gave a quiz. She just showed a pair of eyes. So I'm just giving you two of these. So if you looked at just these eyes, you don't see the body, you don't hear any words. Is this person showing emotion of being decisive, amused, friendly, or bored? I think most of you saw it, right? That is only a tiny part of a person's being that we're seeing, but it's sending huge messages. Here's another one. Irritated, disappointed, depressed, or accusing. And I want to say to you, if you're on the other side of the net, do you want these eyes like this facing you? There's no fear in them, is there? Right? And I want to be next to these people playing because I know that they're going to be in it. It'd be accusing. Okay, so messages, I love this quote, body language never whispers, it screams. Okay, I'm finishing up here. Coach and team culture. When you look at the outline, you might think team culture, team building games. I'm not going to do any of that. That could be a whole different talk. Not that we do that a lot, but mentality for coaches. What message do you want to send? It's so important. Okay. Just to tell you a story, I had a girl named Katie. She was a DS. She thought she was way better than she really was. She wasn't that athletic. That's my timer to stop, so I'll finish it up. She said to me, Coach, I can see from just looking at you and in your eyes if you think our team's going to win tonight. I'm like, what are you talking about, Katie? I really do think we're going to win. She goes, you just look different. There's something about your eye and your demeanor that seems different. So as I thought about that, I thought, you know what? I think I'm setting myself up so if we lose, the fall is not as high. So I was giving her messages, and maybe other people on the team, that I was either not bringing my A game as a coach. I don't know exactly what I was doing, but it really made me have to rethink about how I was going to approach game days. Okay, and that happened in 2009, and I'm so grateful. She was honest with me, right? That honesty. All right, care and love. This is I'm going to just quickly go through this. You will not have credibility to do the things and be truthful with your players unless you deeply care and love for them, and players see through it. And Kevin touched on some of that. And then I would say also truth and communication, right? Being honest with each other. And it's that we, not you versus me with your players. I learned my first year coaching high school, I had a girl, had 7 hitting errors in a row. I don't even know why I kept her in that long. I wanted to give her a chance. And at the end of a match, I took her out, and at the end of the match, the mom and the daughter met me in the parking lot and said, "We just don't understand why you took Sarah out. She feels so bad." And from then on, I never assumed that people could see the writing on the wall. And I take somebody out that's not routine, I will walk to the end of the bench and I'll explain to you why I took them out. Any decision that's made, I talk to them ahead of time. And I don't know why coaches aren't scared or aren't more truthful. They're too scared to have the hard conversation. The harder the conversations you can have with your athletes, the less issues you're going to have with parents and with kids. And if they know you love them deeply, you're going to get away with a whole lot more truth, okay? Because they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. One last thing, benefit of the doubt and accountability. Okay, I'll give you another story. Rachel came into our program and she was bossy. She type A personality, always had to know the score. She was telling her senior All-American what to do. And the captains came up and said, "Coach, this is just not working." So I go to Rachel and I just said, "Hey, Rachel, I don't think you know how you're coming off, right? And I love your take charge A-type personality." I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, right? Because that's the way she's built. "But I want you to know this is how it's coming off. And when you either interrupt me when I'm trying to describe a drill and you want to do it a different way, it really comes off as disrespectful." She was shocked, right? And she was, "Coach, thank you so much for telling me because I don't want to be like that," right? And then I go to the captain and say, "Rachel is on our team. She's a sister of ours. We need to accept who she is. We need to accept the weaknesses. That doesn't mean we're all not trying to grow. But we're going to accept her for that and say we need somebody to keep score because you guys don't like to do it," right? So it's this benefit of the doubt and accountability, and then I'll leave with this and then I'll answer any questions. Being a member of a group that speaks truth to one another takes courage and trust. When love and forgiveness are mixed in with it, there is no better experience and a group's full potential can become achievable. Okay, and I'm tying that in with mentality and with all these things, with the caring and the truth. And it can make all the difference in performance. Okay? I'd love to open up for any questions you might have. Yes?
Did your son make the shot?
Well, it was my son's friend. Yes, he made the shot. Yeah, we won the game. Anybody, I can answer anything. Yeah?
We do have a player that it doesn't seem to matter whether she makes a play or a mistake, but fumbles a lot of anything negative. You don't totally know what's coming out of her mouth, but it's negative. How would you coach that player and what strategies would you use?
Okay, so the question was, we have a player that does a lot of mumbling. We don't know exactly what she's saying. Is it right after she makes a mistake or right after the play? Is it about her more or about the... Okay. What would you do? This is what I would do. I would have a player or a coach have their cell phone, and I would be tracking her in practice, a 6-on-6 game, and I would catch her in a moment that she can see herself, right? And then I would say to her, "Kelly, I don't know what's going on, but this is the way, this is how it looks, and this is how people, the perception. And I know you well enough to know you aren't trying to do that. Let's talk about some ways in which we can get rid of that," right? So she sees it, and then I would go and I would give her strategies as far as Immediately after, what do you want to do immediately after you make a mistake? What's going to be one of these things? Is it going to be to look at the antenna? Is it going to be put the focus on somebody else? And then I would have somebody next to her. So when she does it, I would be holding her accountable. And I have with players, in a very loving way, I have said, you're out, right? So I'm going to tell you you're out of the rotation, the starting rotation, or you're out of the other side, non-starting rotation. Somebody else replaces. And it's just going to be a reminder. I don't want you to think of it as a punishment, but we have to do something because this is not acceptable, and you have control over that, right? And as coaches, we have ultimate control over their playing time. So I have said to players, I've had one instance where I worked with a girl. She was All-American, runner-up to National Player of the Year, and her sophomore year, I asked her to leave the gym. And I just said, Laura, I love you, but you have to learn. This has been multiple conversations about you're acting like an 8-year-old when things don't go your way. Shower up, I'll see you tomorrow, and come ready to play. I'm not angry, I just need to get you out of the gym for everybody else's sake. It took one time for me to do that.
Did you do it in private? Or?
Yes, I pulled her aside. I will never call anybody out, typically in something like that. And now Laura accepted that because I think my players would tell you 1,000 times over, they feel that I love them more than what they are as players any day of the week. But that's been a lot of grounded work on my part. So there's this incredible truth, but there's fierce love. And I just, as a coach, I am in control, even though it's always a we, not me, and versus you. And if you're hurting the group or hurting the team, nobody is above the team, including myself. So they can call me out on things too. Last one. Okay, well, thank you for, oh yes, one more.
About an author or a book that has influenced you the most?
Yeah, the book Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. It's a business book. She talks about leaders being a multiplier or leaders being a diminisher. And I totally applied that to coaching and the leader that I am. And how, as a multiplier, you are almost working for the people that are under you, right? And you say, what is it going to take for me to equip you to be your very best version of yourself and to produce, right? It's awesome. So yes, thank you very much.